Tonight, voting rights advocates across the state are sounding the alarm after the Department of Justice reached out to Nebraska Secretary of State Bob Evnen for a full statewide voter registration list. But that isn't the only federal organization asking for information. DOJ is asking for everything from addresses to driver's licenses to the last four digits of Social Security numbers. The nonprofit Civic Nebraska says much of that information being asked for is already publicly available, but some of the more sensitive data is not. The DOJ is citing the National Voter Registration Act and the Help America Vote Act in its requests, saying the information is necessary to ensure states maintain accurate voter registration lists.
Once this information is out of the state's control, we don't know what will happen to it. The cybersecurity risk would immediately soar in this case, and it would set a very bad precedent.
The Secretary of State's office is currently consulting with the Attorney General on the issue. The Department of Justice has set a deadline of next Monday, September 22nd, to turn over the data. And on the topic of sensitive data, the nonprofit Nebraska Appleseed is speaking out after Nebraska's Department of Health and Human Services shared SNAP benefit information to the USDA. In May, the USDA sent notices to states requiring them to share data of SNAP recipients in their state from 2020 to 2025, which Nebraska complied with in late July. Nebraska Appleseed says sharing that data with the federal government was unlawful and included personal information like names of family members, addresses, and social security numbers. But the DHHS says it complied with all applicable state and federal law when sharing the information.
When the federal government is doing unprecedented, sweeping kind of data grabs from states, we worry that about what it's being used for. This being a state-run program, we think the data is where it's supposed to be, in the hands of our Department of Health and Human Services.
A coalition of 21 states and Washington, D.C. have filed a lawsuit against the USDA for its requirement to hand over that data, saying it's unconstitutional and violates federal privacy laws. The USDA says states that don't comply could lose funding for SNAP. The agency's also noted that the data it collects could be shared with law enforcement and other agencies.